back to City and State TV. I'm Morgan Pehme here live at City and State's SOMOS 2014 hub in beautiful San Juan, Puerto Rico. I'm joined now by the Chief Diversity Officer of New York State, Mecca Santana. Mecca, it's always a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
So there has been a great deal of talk here about MWBEs. You've participated in a number of panels, you've observed a number of the panels. What have been your takeaways from the conference so far?
Oh my goodness, well, like you said, I just walked away from our economic development panel where we had an opportunity to talk about the governor's new goal of 30%, which was recently announced, that we're increasing MWBE participation, increased certification mechanisms, increased funding opportunities, increased support services for MWBEs throughout New York State. It's been a pleasure to share that information with the public at large, but also to hear feedback from the community, the MWBE community, the industries represented here at the SOMOS conference about what the benefits of our program are, what they perceive to be weaknesses that we can shore up, and other ways that we can support them and help pull them into our program and allow them not only to start businesses, but to develop, to grow thriving businesses to the benefit of New York State.
You know, a recent On Diversity conference that you attended and spoke at, you know, there was a great deal of plaudits for what the governor has accomplished with MWBEs, and it really kind of a real contrast to the struggles that New York City has had in meeting its goals. You've increased your goals. But Assemblyman-elect Michael Blake just asked you a very interesting question in the panel, which was said, 30% goal is great, but what are the penalties for not meeting that goal? How did you respond?
Well, it wasn't posed to me, but the question was posed to the panelists. And the reality is, while there is no hardcore penalty, there is the expectation that the goal will be met. And in order to attain and achieve that goal, we put in those support services, not only for our agencies, for our authorities, but also for MWBEs. I mean, the program was designed for them to grow and thrive within the program. And so for us, the 30% is reasonable. It's based on our disparity study. You know, it's not an unreasonable goal, and the expectation is that the agencies and authorities will get to that goal.
And is there also the side of it that, you know, like Comptroller Stringer issued these report cards to the city kind of to shame them for not meeting their goals? The fact that you've been so public about putting out this 30% goal, is that kind of what's going to hold your feet to the fire, because otherwise, you know, there would be this public response to it?
I think it's a combination of the fact that we've been so public, but also the fact that we have a governor who has come kind of front and center on this issue, that he has made it known what his expectations are. That has trickled down from on high to the lower levels through the ranks. I think anytime you have that level of commitment from the leadership, from the administration, the bar has been set and the expectation is clear.
Coming into this role of Chief Diversity Officer, I mean, what have been the surprises for you? I mean, this is obviously an enormously important job in a pressure cooker of a state. You know, are there any aspects of it that you didn't anticipate?
Oh, of course there are aspects you can't fully anticipate coming in, but being a public servant all my life, all of my professional life, I believe it prepares you for the ebb and flow of any situation. The reality is that I'm able to overcome any obstacles because I carry with me a tremendous amount of passion for this work. I think when you have dedication, when you have passion, when you have commitment from leadership and support from leadership, it makes the job so much easier. And so for me, you know, coming from the New York City Department of Education, which was a mammoth institution in and of itself, coming into state service, learning to navigate some of the nuances might have been slightly different, but I was already used to working within this realm, within government, within big business, and growing a successful program. And I had the benefit of coming in, again, to an administration that had already taken so many steps in the right direction and had already laid a foundation for success.
We interviewed a gentleman earlier today who was a senior vice president and partner in the largest Hispanic-owned engineering and architecture firm in the United States that was homegrown here in Puerto Rico. And he said that his greatest frustration in business is that they weren't small, but they weren't large enough to be a prime. They felt that they've been caught in this middle ground, and they were so frustrated that they couldn't get the recognition of a prime, those larger contracts. Is that something that you've heard from a lot of businesses?
You know, it's not something that I've heard from a lot of businesses, but again, that's why we do so much outreach. We seek feedback from the MWBE community, from the industries, from external stakeholders, because that type of information is useful as we develop our program. We like to communicate to the public at large that our program is not a stagnant program. It is always evolving. And so feedback like that, while I haven't necessarily heard that feedback from anyone, other types of feedback about the ways that the program is beneficial, about the ways that the program could be strengthened, we ingest that, we digest that information, and we use that to make policies and procedures that make the program even stronger.
You know, when you came down here to the SOMOS conference, was it to listen, or were there some palpable objectives that you had that you were trying to execute?
I think it's both. I think last year when I came to SOMOS, I was the newly appointed Chief Diversity Officer, having been in the role for a little over a month. And so it was really a first impression kind of situation. This time I come in well prepared, well suited, to listen to members of the community, like I said, to MWBEs, to people who are in this space about what's working well, but to also offer information about the services the state has to offer. There's a lot of, misinformation. It's my job to help demystify our program, to make it accessible to people, to let them know what resources are available. To be here in person, to give someone my business card, to say if you are having an issue, now you have a point of contact, is huge. I mean, this is a community that is built upon personal interactions and personal engagements, and you can't minimize how important that is to people. And so my being here allows me to do that, and allows me to take firsthand that information back to the chamber and help effectuate policies.
Mecca, another focus of this conference is how there can be an exchange of information between New York and Puerto Rico, best practices, how we can learn from each other. One of the things I'd love for New York to learn from Puerto Rico is voter participation. What have you been down here? What's your perspective on how New York can help Puerto Rico and vice versa?
Sure, so I'll give you a concrete example from the reception last night. I met a phenomenal architect who's based here in Puerto Rico, who came up to me and started conversing about the fact that he was interested in opening up a business in New York. And it was something he hadn't really contemplated because he wouldn't even know where to begin. And of course he heard about the conference, and he heard that there were going to be representatives from the state here in person. And so he said he was just so pleased to have the opportunity to speak to someone one-on-one. We exchanged information, because that's what we want. Not only are we trying to increase, growing new businesses and certifying new businesses in New York, to have people come from other countries, to have people come from other states who are interested in starting businesses in New York is to our benefit. So again, we're looking for that flow of industry into New York from any source, and the opportunity to kind of entice someone from Puerto Rico to consider New York State for business is what we're here for.
Well, that's terrific. I'm sure the second floor will be glad to hear that you're bringing new business into New York State.
Always, always.
Mecca Santana, Chief Diversity Officer, New York State. It's always a pleasure to have you with us on City and State TV.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. And as I said, City and State is always a forum that I enjoy engaging with, and I just appreciate the opportunity to be here to spread the message about New York State and our commitment to MWBEs.
Thank you.
Thank you.